league is
the
awful.
table.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that is the worst part for sure.
I think it makes everything else that much worse.
Although I got to say, the constantly feeling like you need to sneeze, which I've been feeling all week, has been awful. Just all times feeling like I need to sneeze.
I guess with this new variety of COVID, you don't lose taste or smell anymore, right?
True. I didn't.
You didn't? Yeah. I think that was like Delta or something. I don't know. Shouldn't have tested, man. You should have just been like, I got a wicked cold.
We had the test. My wife gave me one.
Oh, man.
You know we're live, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure you know.
Hey, guys. What's going on? Welcome to the Stochastic.com NFL Showdown live before lock. Barn burner. Yeah. Battle of the heavyweights. Carolina Panthers, Chicago Bears. Let's get into it. For real, though, kind of a fun one. And the problem is, though, Neil, by the way, Neil Orfield, that player Q DFS, back in the house, coming back after the old bout with the Rona. Glad to see you here, man. Glad to see you're feeling better.
Happy to be back.
Yeah, man. We've had a bunch of slates where it's tough to fit like any of the studs. With some of the pricing on these guys where it's like you have a receiver that might play 90% of snaps, it's $400. 60% snap guy at $200 on the other side. Two running backs that are arguably, well, no, definitely underpriced. I think you can do whatever you want on a game like this.
You can. I mean, you can easily do it. To me, this is an easy one to leave salary on the table too, because I haven't run the optimals, but I wouldn't be surprised if even the optimal lineup leaves a good amount of salary on the table. It's a wide open slate. Yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah, man. Well, anyway, happy to have you guys with us. If you could, for Neil's sake, coming back from a life-threatening illness, but still here with us. I'm joking. I'm not downplaying it. It sounded horrible.
It was bad. It was no fun.
I try to add hyperbole for the dramatic effect.
Yeah, it's important.
Also, I'm using your sickness as a way to garner likes on today's show. I hope that's okay with you.
That's brilliant. Yeah, good idea.
Please, for Neil's sake, take 1 single second, atone for your sins here, and hit that thumbs up. Give us some likes. Give Neil some likes that he's back in the house. We all missed him, but he's here. Whew. Subscribe to the channel as well. I talked about this slate this morning with Matt, and it's guys, I'm telling you, it's a bad game, but this is not as bad a slate as it looks. Like it's kind of fun to dissect. So sit down, buckle up. Let's have some fun here. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate you, man. I want to ask you something first before any positions, how inclined are you to leave a lot of salary on the table on a night like tonight?
Very, very inclined. Like, I mean, I always am, to be honest, but on this slate in particular, like, I don't think you're making any worse lineups by leaving salary on the table. I think if you leave $2,000 on the table, you're probably making a lineup that doesn't project all that much worse than the lineups that are using close to the full salary cap. And still, those are the ones that most people who are hand building are going to want to build. So I think, yeah, you can gain a lot of EV just by leaving salary on the table on this slate, because we have a lot of very cheap players who are in nearly as good of spots as the players who are 7,000 more expensive than them. So I think it's a great spot to be leaving salary on the table for large field GPPs.
Talking about Tyson Bagent, Bryce Young, these two guys, we can kick it off at quarterback, work our way through. We'll move around a little bit here as we always do. But, you know, Bagent is a Division II quarterback. He was great at Division II, but still a Division II quarterback. He's really locked on to Cole Kmet. We've seen a lot of opportunities there. He's still going to go to DJ Moore. Then you've got Scott just all the way down there. What type of opportunities does a guy like that see today, assuming he continues to see around 60% of snaps or whatnot? But Bagent captain or Bryce Young captain, how likely are you to get to a lot of these? Now, I will say, I do think I prefer Bryce Young captain a little bit more than Tyson Bagent, only because I like the way these lineups fit. And I like that Chuba Hubbard, I saw you mention it in your thread for today's game as well, and I fully agree with you. Chuba Hubbard can be classified as a pass-catching back. I know Miles Sanders had 6 targets last game, but he did only play 18 snaps, only 25% of snaps. Chuba Hubbard was outproduced in the passing game, but still 45 routes to Sanders 20 over the last 2 games. You don't see a ton of that with Donta Foreman, with Roschon Johnson. That leans me a little bit towards Bryce Young here. I also think that while he hasn't played well, given that they have a new play caller in Carolina, that you may start to see things open up a little bit here. And I'm playing a little bit for that tonight. Maybe it's mistaken, but I'm going to play for that a little bit tonight.
Yeah, and I think Bryce Young looks fantastic in the captain spot. We actually have positive leverage on both of them. I was thinking I'd probably lean Bagent just because of the rushing upside he's shown. He ran for 70 yards last week. That's really promising
nuts
to me. Yeah. So the fact that he has shown his legs makes me a little bit more inclined toward Tyson Bagent, but certainly you can make a case for Bryce Young. Maybe you can finally get it going against somewhat of a pass funnel defense for the Bears. So it is a nice spot for Bryce Young. We have Bagent 11% captain projected ownership, 12% chance to be an optimal. That's awesome to see. I'm probably going to be above weight to the field on Bagent. Honestly, I'll probably end up above weight to both of them. We also have Bryce Young at about 9% ownership, with a slightly greater than 9% chance to be an optimal. So both of them somewhat positive leverage in the captain spot. You know the way I build. I'm often above the field on gross quarterbacks in the captain spot. This slate in particular, I think that is, I'm probably going to end up with about 20% of each of them in the captain spot. I think they're both fantastic captains, and we have positive leverage in the util for both of them as well. Yeah, I think both quarterbacks, I mean, on a slate where it's hard to find players that you really want to play, I guess that's sort of true of the quarterbacks too here, but I think that these are some of the stronger options on the slate, certainly some of the better projected options on the slate. And looking at the single game tool, we have Tyson Bagent, 48% util ownership, 56% chance to be an optimal. So massive positive leverage there. And then Bryce Young, we have at 43% util ownership, 46% chance to be an optimal. So some positive leverage there as well. But Bagent, he's a little bit cheaper, a little bit easier to fit into lineups. I guess I'm leaving salary on the table, so it doesn't matter all that much. But yeah, I think both are great options. I'm going to be, I think, above weight to the field on both quarterbacks.
Yeah. Sean V said, Bryce Young is such an awful all caps play. We have him positively leveraged here. I think it's fine. I don't think he's overpriced. To your point, though, Bagent to our tools have him with a higher leverage score, higher optimal captain probability, and he is a little bit cheaper than Bryce Young. Not by a ton, right? $600 in the flex, not by a lot. He is cheaper though.
We also are projected better by nearly 2 fantasy point better projection for Bagent than Bryce Young. It's really hard. I mean, he's played three games in like a quarter against the Vikings. I don't remember exactly, maybe a half when Justin Fields got hurt. But he hasn't, obviously a small sample size, but he's at least shown, last game, 70 rushing yards. So he projects a little bit better, a little bit better defense overall for the Bears too. So it's a little bit of a tougher spot for Bryce Young, I'd say. But yeah, they're honestly fairly similar plays. Neither of them we have a huge sample size on in their careers. Bryce Young, a rookie also. So yeah, I think both are strong plays on a 1-game slate.
Adam Johnson said, how horrible would it be to play a QB without a wide receiver, but a running back? It's kind of tough on a day like today because I don't know the pass catching upside the Bears running backs have, although Tyson Bagent does have some rushing upside. And on the other side, you're not getting a lot of rushing upside from Bryce Young, but Chuba Hubbard, even Miles Sanders, but I think he's a little overpriced. They do have some upside in the passing game. Also, Bears have allowed by a country mile more receiving yards to running backs than any team in the league this year, 150 more than the next closest team. Also, for what it's worth, Neil, no team has allowed more receiving touchdowns to opposing running backs either than the Chicago Bears. Now, of course, it's the NFL. It's a small sample, but they've allowed 578 receiving yards and 5 receiving touchdowns to running backs this season. So if I were to do it, I think it would be Bryce Young and Chuba Hubbard if I had to. But I think you probably would like to get to one of those actual pass catchers in that lineup too.
Yeah, more often than not, that is what I'm going to do. I said in my article today and in my thread, I think you could theoretically play Bajent without any of his primary pass catchers. So certainly, then if you throw in a running back in there who I kind of consider for the Bears, they're more like secondary pass catchers. None of them super involved. I mean, Roshan Johnson, the more involved pass catcher, but he's not out there all that much. So it's just you've got better pass catching running backs options for the Panthers side, but Bajent does have that rushing upside. So it is viable. It's not my favorite way to go. I still typically, when I play Bajent, I want to play him with one of his primary pass catchers, but it's somewhat viable given that he has some rushing upside. And certainly, if you want to throw a running back in there, maybe they score a receiving touchdown. So yeah, viable, not my favorite approach.
Sean V said Foreman has to be the captain. All right, Sean, we'll hold you to that, brother. He has to be. That is a strong, firm, definitive stance by Sean V. By the way, I don't dislike Foreman at the captain spot at all.
He's fine.
With Khalil Herbert still on the IR. Definitely doesn't need to be the captain, though.
We have him the optimal captain 8% of the time. I think I trust the numbers more than I trust Sean V's instincts.
And that's a good mark. That's not bad. I mean, we have him 10.5% owned in the captain spot, so there's actually a little negative leverage there. Nothing significant. But I think you could make a decent argument for a lot of these guys. I'm really, really curious to see what DJ Moore's ownership comes in at, where you've got him and Adam Thielen. They're priced, Adam Thielen is pretty expensive on this slate, but we have him optimal captain 15% of the time, 16% ownership, but top play likelihood, top play probability for Thielen is 26% today. That's a really big number for a game like this, particularly for a receiver.
Yeah, really, really strong target share for Adam Thielen. I mean, we've all watched all season as he's been just amazing all year, like out of nowhere. He seems to be turning back the clock. 11th most fantasy points of all receivers this season. That's great. And now he's facing the Bears defense, ranked 30th in terms of pass DVOA, a little bit of a pass funnel defense for the Bears. So yeah, there is a lot to like about Adam Thielen. And you look at who he's competing with, like Terrace Marshall is probably the wide receiver 3 at this point for the Panthers. We've got rookie Jonathan Mingo in there, just not great competition for Adam Thielen. So it makes sense that he's going to look great. I don't really know if there's that much we need to say about Adam Thielen other than 11th most fantasy points of all receivers this season in a game where there's not a lot of great fantasy options. Yeah, he stands out. He's expensive, 11,800, even more expensive if you want to play him in the flex. We have him at a total ownership of 67%. That seems fair to me. We actually have him optimal at just over 70%. So we have a little bit of positive leverage on Adam Thielen. My guess is I don't end up too far off the field. Like I think he probably makes it into somewhere between 50 and 75% of my lineups. I think that seems.
Yeah, the DJ Moore thing is so both of these teams have some injuries, right? You're missing Tremaine Edmonds for Chicago. That helps Chuba Hubbard in the passing game, no doubt about it. And then you've got Carolina. DJ Shark's out. But how about the fact that they're missing Brian Burns on defense? I mean, this is a significant absence. He's their best defensive player. He's their best defensive player. And it makes you wonder, who benefits the most from something like this. But at the same time, with both of these guys missing players on defense, like key players, I wouldn't be surprised to see a decent amount of scoring in this game. I got to tell you, the opportunities that Cole Kmet has seen recently, they definitely stand out to me. I mean, he has seen 18 targets over the last 2 games. Not just that, but Tyson Bagent has completed 16 of those 18 targets. Now, they're not real long downfield. They're not far downfield, but he's clearly relying on him as that safety valve. And we're seeing that frequently in back-to-back games. Now, granted, they played from behind in both of these games. They went up against New Orleans in New Orleans. They played the Chargers in LA. But the Chargers handled them. There was at no point was that game competitive, although they decided to put it on prime time. But he's coming off a 2-touchdown performance, and Cole Kmet is the type of guy that can find the end zone. He has multiple 2-touchdown performances this season, 2 of them since week 4. I don't think that price point is unreasonable whatsoever on Cole Kmet. I'm almost inclined to say that he's my favorite pass catcher from the Bears today.
Somebody asked me earlier today who I was leaning toward as my favorite captain. He was my first instinct. Cole Kmet, as you said, 18 targets over the past 2 games. That is really strong. He saw 0 targets in the game before that for whatever reason, but it's promising to see that in the last 2 games, the target share has come up. It is also a very small sample size. Like he's done this for just like out of nowhere with Justin Fields before. So who knows if there's anything to it, if this is something that we're going to continue to see going forward where Badgett leans on Cole Kmet, but the ownership seems about fair. We've got Cole Kmet coming in at 9% captain ownership, 33% util ownership. We actually have positive leverage in both spots, 11% captain optimal to the 9% ownership, 37% util optimal to the 33% ownership. He looks like one of the safer plays on the slate, and he's just 6,600. A lot to like about Cole Kmet. And if you put him in at captain, like you can play basically whoever you want to in the rest of your lineup.
100%. And he opens things up. You're right. He's been fluky, but this offense is also fluky. It's not really Cole
Right.
Kmet's fault, right?
Yeah.
Like there were times where Justin Fields was throwing 18 times a game. So I don't know how much of that. I bet if you looked at target share, it looks a whole lot better, but that doesn't matter if passing volume is low. But then that again, it begs the question in a spot like this where the Bears are 3.5 point favorites at any book. How much do we like these running backs? How much do we like Dante Foreman? There's no Khalil Herbert. Roshan Johnson, despite, and I mentioned it this morning, thinking that he's going to get more, not just me, but anyone thinking he's going to get more involved after Khalil Herbert went down. And then there was that one game it showed some signs of life. And then it kind of disappeared. You're coming off a 20 carry Dante Foreman game where, they played from behind for the length of that. That type of volume is definitely significant here. There's no doubt. And then on the other side with Chuba Hubbard, you've seen him since the bye week dominate snaps. He is the starter now. I'm sure they regret that contract to Miles Sanders, but he's there. He'll get worked in a bit, but it appears right now, unless they're playing the hot hand and we don't know it, that Chuba Hubbard is the lead guy. So yes, while there is somewhat of a split in this backfield, it's not like Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley or something like that. There does appear to be one clear lead back on both sides, Dante Foreman and Chuba Hubbard, both of whom really aren't priced like it, given what we've seen other running backs priced like on these showdown slates.
Yeah, so I mean, Dante Foreman for sure. It looks like he is the lead back. Got 20 of the team's 23 carries last week. I don't think we have any reason to believe that he won't continue to just be a workhorse for the Bears. And he's facing a Panthers defense ranked 32nd in run DVOA. Dante Foreman is like by far my favorite running back on the slate. My first instinct was like they look pretty similar, like these running backs. I don't think of either of them as being stars, but they've been kind of thrust into the spotlight, both against bad defenses. But digging into it a little bit more, I don't like Chuba Hubbard quite as much as Dante Foreman overall, even though I like him better as a pass catcher with his quarterback. Shane Steichen kind of made some comments that made it sound like he wants it to be more of a committee where Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders are both going to be like splitting the backfield, maybe closer to 50-50 than we saw last week. Last week, we did see Chuba Hubbard got 16 of the 23 running back carries for the Panthers, but it sounds like maybe they want to get Miles Sanders a little bit more involved, and they're facing a Bears defense that is kind of a pass funnel. So I think Chuba Hubbard can certainly get there. He's the better pass catcher. So maybe he gets there on more just like PPR points, that kind of stuff. But overall, I think I do prefer Foreman over Hubbard just because of the coach speak kind of suggesting to me that maybe Miles Sanders does get a little bit more involved and it's a tougher matchup for Chuba Hubbard. So I think there are just more obstacles for Chuba Hubbard to get there versus Foreman, who just appears to be the lead back, and he's facing a much worse run defense. So to me, I prefer Foreman, but you can certainly make a case for Hubbard, even in a 50-50, split. He can get there on maybe 15 touches or something like that. So Hubbard is playable, but Foreman is definitely my preference among the running backs.
Okay. The OMG father said, yeah, they didn't pay Miles Sanders to sit on the bench. Well, that's what they've been doing, though.
Right.
The last 2 games, he's been scarcely involved. Corey with a super chat. Pickens, DJ Moore, or Judy? Pickens, DJ Moore, or Judy this week? Broncos are Monday night, right? Against
Let's see.
Broncos Monday night against the Bills, I think.
Is it DJ Moore revenge? You're gonna play DJ Moore for the revenge. Let's see.
Oh man, I didn't even think about that. I don't know how much revenge there really is. It's either Tyson Bagent or Bryce Young throwing to you. It's pretty shitty either way.
Broncos against Buffalo. I don't really love that. Who was the throw? It was Pickens.
It would be Pickens against the Packers. I'd probably still go DJ Moore here.
I think I would too. It's pretty close. I don't love the options, but I think I'd probably lock in DJ Moore. Just partially just because it's fun, because it's Thursday Night Football. You want to have something to cheer for.
Yeah, and if there's not as big a difference, just go DJ Moore. And there's not a big difference. Riley Cooper, Santos or Sanders?
Santos or Miles Sanders? Probably Miles Sanders. I feel like it's going to be easier for Sanders to pick up, points than I just don't expect it to be a high scoring game. So it's hard for me to love the kickers here. Or is he, wait, I assume he's talking about Miles Sanders is the, I forget who the, So I think I think I would go Miles Sanders.
So that's Sanders' nickname. So I was just.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Then I'd go Miles Sanders. It's close though. I mean, it's not pretty.
No, it's not. Yeah, I don't know. I have no disagreements with you really on Chuba Hubbard, just given that it is kind of a pass funnel spot. But in the event that he comes back out and he does see the same amount of opportunities that he's been seeing over the last couple of weeks, I still don't have an issue with it. 67, 63% of snaps. Man, how confident are you that Miles Sanders goes back to seeing a significant role this week?
Not confident. I mean, it's just based on coach speak. Let me see if I can pull up the what the quote was again. But yeah, I mean, you can't really ever trust coaches all that much. So I don't want to read too much into it. But yeah, he is getting paid like he should be getting some snaps here. And Steichen, let's I have to scroll back a bit right now. Wait.
So then would you play Miles Sanders at 5,200?
Okay, here's a quote. Frank Reich on the backfield split between Chuba and Miles Sanders. Right now, we're staying the same. Chuba's kind of the quote unquote starter, but I really see it being a pretty even rotation between the two of these guys, is what Shane Steichen, Frank Reich. I always get those two, the names just the way the names are spelled screws me up. But
they also Reich, both came from Philly.
Yeah. Frank Reich says that he wants it to be more of an even split. So,
but then he also said it's more of the same, which is, well,
true.
If it's more of the same, then it's just what?
Like, is he not aware that he just gave all of the carries to Chuba Hubbard in the last game? Yeah, it is a little bit of a
last two games.
But Miles Sanders coming in at 15% ownership at 5,200 is where it becomes sort of interesting to me. So I think that he has some standalone value just because the coach is saying he wants it to be an even split. But then on top of that, he has the contingent value if Chuba Hubbard goes down for whatever reason. Then Miles Sanders
would you captain Sanders?
I don't think so. I think I would just captain somebody who's going to project better. Like you don't need to be captaining really cheap players on this slate.
That's a good point. You look at this, and there might be weeks where there's a few of these guys that we like at the captain spot that just don't look as good today. I like Darnell Mooney being one of these guys. That price point is a little bit confusing to me, if we're being honest. I'm not really sure how Darnell Mooney or why Darnell Mooney is priced like he is when pretty much everyone else has been priced lower than they should be. I mean, you and I did a showdown slate with the Chicago Bears facing Washington, remember?
Yep.
And he was like $5,000 or something. He was cheap. I remember that. He was like he's up to $7,400. He's had one game since week 2, north of 7 or 9. Yeah. So 0090. Oh my God. 0090775513. Not trying to just surf the game logs here, but at some point, I mean, you have to wonder to yourself, he's really only capable when it comes to those deep throws of actually having a big game and paying off his price point. Tyson Bagent hasn't exactly been able to capitalize on that with anyone. At least Justin Fields was getting the job done with DJ Moore there. Cole Kmet has been targeted quite frequently, but that's not downfield. The longest reception that DJ Moore has since Tyson Bagent took over is 18 yards. It's like Darnell Mooney's a tough guy for me to get to at that price point.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I mean, it's interesting because it's a one game slate. I feel like I need to think about playing Darnell. Like I would never play Darnell Mooney on a large slate, but because it is a one game slate, I'm just looking through. So for the past 3 games, Darnell Mooney has run routes on 81% of dropbacks. So he's second on the team in terms of route participation. His target share has been bad all year. It's actually up slightly, as 13 targets in the last 3 games. So I guess the target share has actually come up very slightly for Darnell Mooney. He has just, I think, 31 targets in 9 games. So getting 13 in the past 3, I guess that's promising that he's at least getting the targets. I think like he's sort of in no man's land. Like he's one of those guys that I didn't include in my thread because he's not a great value. He doesn't project well enough to be like an actual stud. And then he's also not getting like single digit ownership. He's getting around 20% ownership. So he's one of those guys to me who's just like, yeah, he's fine. Like he doesn't stand out as some great play. It's going to be tough for him to hit. I don't want to full fade him because he certainly could hit at like you could see him score a touchdown in the first quarter and suddenly you're like, why didn't I play him at 20% ownership? But he's not somebody I'm excited to play. I'm trying to get I'm trying to basically match the field on Darnell Mooney, and we have him at what 21% util ownership. Let me actually look. We've got him at 2% captain ownership, 21% util ownership. That's about what I want to be at with Darnell Mooney. I'm not trying to take any huge stand here. He's out on the field. Maybe one of these days he actually catches a meaningful pass that's going to go for a 50-yard touchdown or something. But as you said, like it just hasn't happened so far for Bagent. Maybe it never does. But I'll take my shots against this Panthers defense. I'm not trying to get different with Darnell Mooney. I'm trying to, kind of match the field here.
I guess the problem I have though is what's the real discernible difference between $7,400 Mooney and $2,800 Jonathan Mingo?
Yeah, not much. There is not much that differentiates those two. But what do we have Mingo at? Slightly higher ownership. So he's yeah,
well, 5% higher though.
Yeah, we've got him at 5% captain ownership to Mooney's 2%, and then we have him at 25% util ownership to Mingo's 21%. So slightly higher ownership. I agree with you. I mean, Mingo is the pretty clear, wide receiver 2 for the Panthers. And it is a bit of a pass funnel spot for the Panthers. So yeah, they're not all that different to me. The price difference is made up for with the ownership difference. Mingo, I do think I like Mingo better overall than Darnell Mooney. He is somebody that obviously he just projects really well, point per dollar being 2,800, projecting similarly to Mooney. We have Mingo projected better than Mooney, for the record. So it's pretty wild to see the guy who's 2,800 projected better than the guy who's 7,400. I guess I'm just thinking I don't want to completely I think if I just ran projections as they are, I would get to 0 Darnell Mooney because he projects so poorly point per dollar. But I don't want to completely overlook him in all of my lineups. He's a guy who doesn't excite me at all. I don't want to completely overlook him because he obviously he's out there enough that he could break the slate.
Oh, well, I have a bigger question for you. You ready for this one?
Yeah.
This is why the people are here. This is what the people are here for, okay? So Chris Williams had a question, and shout out to Chris, big supporter of the show. We appreciate you, man. Great show, guys. Quick question. They're not a fan, but building 150 lineups. Do we know if St. Brown is playing?
He is. He was called up. Yeah, he came back
off the IR.
Off of IR. Yeah. He's actually somebody that I was going to bring up as I don't really know what to make of it. I don't know if he's going to play a ton, but the fact that they called him up, like he is active for this game, tells me that he's probably going to play. And I mean, you look at the games that he's played in the past, like he's probably going to play something close to 50% of snaps. Let me pull it up. He hasn't been active all that much this year. So you might remember that I loved him in that game against the Commanders because week 4, I think that was week 5, probably. I think in week 4, he played 58% of snaps. And I thought nobody's playing Equanimeous St. Brown he's going to be like under 2% owned. I forget what it was exactly, but it was like he was getting 0 ownership after playing 58% of the snaps. Then in week 5, he only played 38% of the snaps. So it actually came down, and then he did absolutely nothing in that game. I think we're kind of in a similar spot here where it's just like, all right, well, past history suggests they want him to be their wide receiver 3. I think it's DJ Moore, it's Darnell Mooney, then it's Equanimeous St. Brown. They also made Velus Jones inactive for this game. So the games that he has played ahead of Trent Taylor, Velus Jones, Tyler Scott. He's played more snaps than all of them. So it's kind of my assumption that we're going to see Equanimeous St. Brown step back into that wide receiver 3 role. Definitely not guaranteed though. Like Tyler Scott has been the guy playing nearly 60% of snaps as the wide receiver 3 the past 2 games. So I don't know that Equanimeous St. Brown is actually going to come back and play significant snaps immediately. But also wouldn't surprise me if he did. So the fact that he's getting virtually zero ownership, he is somebody that I'm going to be at least getting to a little bit, just because we haven't projected for like virtually zero ownership and we have Tyler Scott at 7%. I think I'm going to probably actually come in overweight to the field on both of them, but I think that I'm more interested in playing the 0% owned Equanimeous St. Brown and just kind of hope that he's going to be more involved than people are expecting.
Appreciate you battling through this one, man.
I mean, I'm happy to be. I was, if you couldn't tell, I was in chat on Monday because I was like, man, I want to be there because I do all this research and then I can't do the show. Whereas today,
I said, look at this asshole trying to steal all the glory while he sits home off screen on his couch.
Yeah, just listen to me, guys. Matt did a fantastic job filling in. Obviously,
he was great.
I also watched it because I wanted to hear what Matt had to say.
Is this your first show?
I've done some VODs.
Okay. But this is the most you've had to talk since dealing.
It is. Yes.
Yeah. That's when it gets you for sure.
Yeah.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Tyler Scott does kind of remain the guy. I don't know.
I wouldn't be either. And that's what the field, I think, is expecting. So
yeah, not to say that you or I have any clue at this point, because ESB had been playing, but he had been wildly uninvolved. Yeah. So that makes it more difficult. This isn't a guy that comes off the IR and you're like, man, we need to get him back on the field.
Right.
But the problem is when you're looking at Tyler Scott, Equanimeous St. Brown, Trent Taylor, Velus Jones. There you go. Right. They drafted.
Out? He's inactive this game.
Right. No. I'm saying when you have all of those guys on a team, it doesn't really matter who the wide receiver 3 is.
True. Good point. It's just gross across the board.
So maybe it's Scott, maybe it's ESB. Who the hell knows? I want to drill down for a second on DJ Moore, help the people out here a little bit. He's going to be on the field a ton. He played 66 snaps last game out of 68 total offensive snaps. He's going to be on the field the entirety of the game. He is still the alpha receiver in this offense, despite what we've said and seen from Cole Kmet. DJ Moore is still the best player on this offense. He is significantly cheaper than Adam Thielen for a showdown slate. Adam Thielen's been fantastic. Do you have any interest in getting to some, DJ Moore non-Thielen lineups and playing both of them together maybe and getting cheap elsewhere? And if you are playing both of those guys together, Thielen and DJ Moore, what are you doing with the rest of your lineups?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm going to have plenty of lineups that have both of them in them because they are pretty easy to make. I'm looking at the lineups that I have right now. I say that and then I'm like, oh, I don't actually see that many. Of course, I'm leaving salary on the table. If you don't leave a ton of salary on the table, I'm assuming it's going to be pretty easy to get to Thielen and DJ Moore together. Part of the thing that's holding me back from getting to a ton of them together is I'm often correlating. So a lot of the times when I have DJ Moore in a lineup, I'm going to have Tyson Bagent. And then if you're leaving salary on the table, it's harder to get so many studs in your lineup. But yeah, it's pretty easy to play Thielen and DJ Moore in a lineup together. I'm going to have some exposure to both of them together. I actually have less than I thought I would, just looking through the lineups that I have right now. But it's pretty easy with all of the value on this slate. Terrace Marshall being $400, running backs being relatively inexpensive. It's easy to get them in a lineup together. But yeah, I'm surprised to see how little I am getting to. Okay, here, finally, I've got one with Thielen captain and DJ Moore in there, along with both. I have one with Thielen captain, DJ Moore in there, and both quarterbacks. That is wild that you can play all of that in the same lineup. Is it like
Scott and Marshall too? Or what are the last two?
It's actually Marshall and St. Brown in this one, but yeah, it's the same difference.
That's not insane though. I
mean, exactly.
It's what if it just so happens that like both alpha receivers go off? Yeah, and also, dude, I actually love that build. because you have double attachments to each quarterback. Is
Yeah.
is it the most likely outcome? No, it's a 38 total game. I get that. But we've seen weirdest, and I know that, you know, primetime games of the unders have crushed this year. If you're a betting man or woman, the unders on primetime games have been electric. But still, I don't hate that at all. You got four of the highest priced guys. Now you're fading the running backs, but that's
That's also a
okay.
lineup that's leaving a lot of salary on the table. So if you wanted to, you could very easily play that same lineup and just upgrade Equanimeous St. Brown to somebody that you trust a little bit more. You could play anybody up to 2,300 in that spot, which maybe there's nobody that you like that much better, but yeah, it's really not that gross of a lineup, considering that this is just a gross slate all the way through.
I'm curious to see what the Sims spit out to us.
Me too. Are we going to take a look at them?
Yeah, we'll take a look in a few minutes. Before we do, guys, we got a new partner here on Live Before Lock, and well, I think you're going to like it. So you know about the pick'em sites, right? You know, Prize Picks and the others, and Sleeper and Drafters and all of these, right? Vivid Picks right now, they're doing a $300 first match deposit bonus. That's absurd. They're matching your bonus up to $300. You got $600 now if you deposit 300. Even if you don't have that much, you are now able to go to another pick'em site, particularly those of you in non-legal sports betting sites, and collect free money on these sign-up bonuses that you did not have before. Honestly, it's like a sports book. You know, I say all the time in the Odd Shopper videos, by the way, shout out to all you guys who do watch our Odd Shopper channel. We just hit 100K subscribers yesterday in 2 years. Excited about that. Proud of the accomplishment as a team, and appreciative to you guys. But we always say, like, if you're going to be betting sports, you damn well better be on multiple sports books. You better have as many accounts as possible, even if you're spreading out a relatively small bankroll across all of those, because you're giving yourself the option now to get the best odds on every single bet that you're making, right? And you're giving yourself the opportunity to collect all of those free sign-up bonuses, those big sign-up bonuses that these sports books throw out. It's the same thing with these pick'em sites. And that's what it is with Vivid Picks, right? You're going in there, you're taking more or less high or over or under and all of these projections you would. You're throwing them into a lineup, and the more you put in, the higher your winnings would be, right? That's all it is. It's a multiplier, just as it is at Prize Picks or anywhere else, except in this case, $300 first match deposit bonus. Now, I will say the standard bonus is $100. If you were to go to Vivid Picks right now and sign up, the standard deposit bonus is $100. It's exclusive to what we're doing with them in this partnership. The link in the description and in the chat is the only way you're getting the $300 first match deposit bonus. So if you're looking to get elsewhere, if you're looking to take advantage of free squares, not just at Prize Picks or the other one that you're at, but spread it out equally everywhere, or even just use it complimentary, Vivid Picks is matching your bonus up to $300, which is massive. And $25 when you first sign up. If your first play of up to $25 loses, it all gets refunded in site credit. So you got double there. Good way to make it happen. All right. Anyway, Vivid Picks, link in the description and in chat. Only way to get $300 first match deposit bonus is right there. All right. We got to talk about Tommy Tremble and Hayden Hurst, and then we can look at some other stuff here. Tommy Tremble, 2 red zone targets, 2 inside the 5, 2 touchdowns this season. So he hasn't been invisible. Who's their tight end that's out today? What the hell is his name?
Sullivan.
Thank you. Yeah, please forgive me.
Sullivan.
Forgive me. So Hurst and Tommy Tremble. Maybe this is the rogue tight end Tommy Tremble game. We saw Drew Sample the other day. Maybe this is the Tommy Tremble game. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that they're both strong plays. They both should see a little bit of an uptick with Steven Sullivan out. I would think they do still have Jordan Matthews there as a tight end 3, but Hayden Hurst to me is really interesting on this slate. He's run routes on like just over 50% of dropbacks so far this year. He's the clear like top tight end. I shouldn't say clear. It's been a bit of a rotation of the tight ends in Carolina, but I think Hayden Hurst is still like the tight end 1 of the group. So I do have interest in Hurst. Tremble not running as many routes, but still has 2 end zone targets on the year, still viable at 2,400 just because touchdown like this on a low scoring slate, he scores a touchdown, that might be like he might be one of the highest scoring players with just a single touchdown. So yeah, I think both are very viable here. Hayden Hurst, the much more likely to hit just because he's on the field more, running more routes. And we like Hurst better. The tools like Hurst better in the captain spot. 0.3% captain ownership, 0.7% chance to be an optimal. Doesn't seem like much, but that's more than double in terms of leverage, more than double the odds of being optimal versus ownership. Whereas in the util, we actually only have Hayden Hurst with a 4.6% chance of being optimal at 9.7% ownership. But who knows? Who knows how this affects him, if he's going to get the bulk of the extra work with Sullivan out or Tremble. Hard to know for sure, but I actually like both of them as players who just could see the end zone. Like if they don't score a touchdown, I don't really think either of them is likely to pay off their price tag, but I think that they are as likely as basically anybody outside of Thielen on the Panthers to score a receiving touchdown.
We had a question from our friend Gakel. You got to tell me how to pronounce your name, dude. Thank you though for the super chat. FanDuel Cash, Panthers D, Pinero, or Mingo. I don't play Showdown Cash lineups.
Oh yeah, but cash. Oh man,
I'd probably go Mingo there, but that's tough for me to answer. I can run just like an unadulterated crunch and tell you what the optimal is. Unless you have a strong.
That is so tough. I mean, I don't play cash, so it's immediately like, man, what is probably just whatever projects the best on FanDuel, which I don't immediately have in front of me.
I mean, that's what it would be, right? Yeah. But Showdown Cash probably has some unique wrinkles in there that I'm not familiar with, to be completely honest with you. I don't know. I've never played a Showdown Cash game in my life.
Yeah, me neither. Let's see, NFL Showdown.
I'd probably go Mingo.
Yeah, my guess is that Mingo project. I'm pulling up okay, so it's Mingo or what are the options? Mingo, Carolina defense, or
Eddie Pinero.
All right, and so we have Mingo with a projection of just under 7. We have Eddie Pinero. Actually, Eddie Pinero projects slightly better. And then what was the third? What was the Panthers defense?
Yeah.
Oh, we have the Panthers defense projected like a 1.5 better than the others.
Wow.
So,
all right,
yeah,
then Panthers D defense. It is. Glad we looked. Sean Preston, with the total of this game, doesn't running back rank over quarterbacks in DFS? In a main slate, probably. In a main slate, we wouldn't be touching either of these quarterbacks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, quarterbacks just project better. Like they almost always project better than just about anybody outside of like the elite plays, and we just don't really have elite plays here. So the quarterbacks project the best on this slate. I hear what you're saying, but just looking at the projections, we have the highest projection on, and this is FanDuel, we have Bryce Young with the highest projection on the slate. Or sorry, we have Badgett and Bryce Young as the two highest projections on FanDuel. Let me look on DraftKings as well. On DraftKings, just in terms of fantasy points, we have Thielen number 1, and then it's Badgett and Bryce Young are the two next in line in terms of projection. Foreman, a few fantasy points worth. So yeah, I think it's still quarterbacks here.
We got 1,300 people still hanging with us on a Thursday night. So here's what we're going to do. I want to take a look at the Sims. This has helped people just watching the show and seeing some of these top results. So I want to do that. Pull the lineup generator up. You guys could make this. I decided like a couple of weeks ago with Neil that we're not doing you guys much of a favor by talking about this play or that play with 2 minutes before lock. It's not helping. By pulling up the Sims and having it, rank these lineups by Simmed ROI. What are the best, large field tournament lineups? That's going to do you a lot more help and give you a lot better understanding than anything else is. Hold on, Jordan. But before we do, are there any other players? Because we still have a little time here. Are there any other players that we haven't touched on that you can briefly throw some analysis out there that you think the audience would want to hear?
Yeah, I mean, so Roschon Johnson, somewhat involved in the passing game. He's 3,600. He has both standalone and contingent value. We've got him at about 19% ownership at 3,600. I do have interest in Roschon. So, as I said, the running back I have the most interested in is Deontay Foreman. And I already said I have some interest in both Hubbard and Sanders in a tough spot. But Roschon, if he gets in the game, he's got that great matchup with the Carolina run defense, and he's 3,600. So I do like Roschon. And then we also have Kerry Blossomgame is out, which I don't really know if that's going to affect like Darrington Evans all that much, but I think it makes me have just a little bit more interest in Darrington Evans. Blackshear, another guy, he's 1,000. I think he ran 8 routes in the last game, and played 8 snaps and ran 7 routes in the last game. He'd have to score a touchdown, but he's at least viable at $1,000. We haven't really talked that much about Terrace Marshall, but he just obviously stands out as a great point per dollar play. We've talked about Terrace Marshall at least a little bit, but he's 400 and he's going to be the wide receiver 3 here for the Panthers with DJ Chark. I think I'm going to expect him to run like 90% of routes. So he's just way too cheap at 400. So, if we haven't talked about it enough, just know Terrace Marshall is a fantastic play. Jonathan Mingo also too cheap at 2,800. I think we touched on all the tight ends at least a little bit. Tunyon, is at least somebody I'm somewhat interested in for the Bears. I think that we've touched on all of them. I'm more interested in defenses than kickers in this game, but I think that's a personal bias of mine. I'm not sure that it actually is necessarily based in logic there, that I like the defenses better than the kickers here.
Do you think Smith Marset gets involved?
I don't think so. He could, but I just don't think he's that much of a pass catching option here. I'm not playing Smith Marset.
Hockey Freak Sean said, is Moore a must? No, Moore's a good play, but I certainly wouldn't consider him a must.
Agreed.
In a game like this. Yeah. If he doesn't score, I think it's tough to get there as optimal. I mean, you could make an argument the same can be said for Adam Thielen, and it's not like he's had great quarterback play, but Bryce Young has peppered the hell out of him. Last thing, then we're looking at the Sims. We still got about 10 minutes. Are you comfortable in lineups going double running back from the same game?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I think same team. I'm sorry.
Right. I think you can do it with both teams here. It's a little bit tougher for the Panthers just because of the price tags being a little bit more for the Panthers and the matchup being a little bit worse. But I still think it's viable. It's something that not a lot of people are going to do. And if one of these teams is able to establish the run here, it's going to look great for both running backs on that team. So yeah, I have no issue playing both running backs from the same team.
Boss Bro has favorite captains on FanDuel. Well, I can tell you we have Tyson Bagent and Bryce Young, both with the highest optimal captain percentages. Adam Thielen, Dante Foreman behind that. Those are all obvious. I'll give you one that might not be as obvious. I know Neil mentioned it earlier too. I'll throw Cole Kmet out there. I think, Cole Kmet with the touchdown upside, with the volume increase that we've seen. Do you have anybody that you'd want to throw out there?
How old are the defenses on FanDuel? Because this might be a spot where the defenses not get a ton of ownership. Yeah, we have the Panthers at 7.4% ownership on FanDuel. Just looking at the top, yeah, we have, as you said, Bagent, Young, Thielen. Those are the obvious ones. I do like Foreman, so I don't entirely disagree with Sean V about Foreman being a strong MVP option there. But yeah, Panthers look pretty even. Cole Kmet, that's a good call out. We got some positive leverage there. DJ Moore obviously makes some sense as a captain, MVP. Yeah, I'd say that kind of wraps up my favorites. Maybe if you want to throw in like a Mingo, you can, and just hope that he finally has a breakout game. But yeah, those are kind of my favorites, I'd say.
All right, pull the sim up, Jordan. Sotek said, Laffy, what happened to the logos on your TV back there? Oh, yeah. 1 and 7 and 2 aren't 7 aren't worth the show prep. No, that's not what happened, man. So for this one, it's fine. For this one, I'd go through the Roku. I had a Roku in there with a media player, and I would go into my phone and I had all these images stored in there, and they must have done some auto update. And I went in and it's not even available on the app anymore. So now I have to go and figure out a way to get it back on the screen. It is bullshit. I'll find it out though. I'll figure it out. I was frustrated, man. I get the black back there. Looks fine. Don't get me wrong. But the logos with the colored lights, team colors, I was pretty stoked on that. And now it's gone. I hear you, man. Wasn't show prep. It was, I don't know. Hit up Roku. Anyway. Oh, look at that. Our highest simmed ROI lineup. This is the lineup simulator, guys, for those of you wondering over at stochastic.com. Powerful tool. Cole Kmet, Adam Thielen, Bears, Santos, Panthers, and Tyson Bagent. Okay. I mean, look, that's double defense. Kicker, and that is not going to be a popular lineup at all. I'm not surprised it's showing no dupes, Neil.
Yeah, that's the kind of lineup that I like to play on a showdown slate.
And we talked so much about skill players that, hey, maybe this game does shoot out. Yeah, maybe it's 14-7.
Yeah, it very, very well could, or even better. Well, maybe it's 9-6 and nobody gets there except for kickers and defenses.
Yeah, or maybe it's 27-24 and both defenses have a pick six or a scoop and score or something like that.
Yeah.
Bryce Young threw 2 pick sixes just last week against the Indianapolis Colts. It's possible. And by the way, the contest generator, which we're not showing just for the sake of time, that replicates the field. It sims these lineups thousands of times, tries to replicate what the field is going to look like with all of those lineups. Then you move over and you simulate the lineups. It sims all of them. This is where you're simming them thousands of times. And you can see where it says like top 10 cash percentage, cash per probability, win probability. And then it's ranking all of them according to the simulated ROI. This is what you would be or would be known as the Sims tool. This is the same tool that Greg Ehrenberg just won $100,000 on in basketball last week. So I'd say it's doing its job. But second lineup: DJ Moore, Bears; Santos, Foreman, Panthers; Bagent. Look, so double defense in both of these. But the funny thing is, you still have Moore, you still have Foreman, you still have Tyson Bagent. Like you're still getting a lot of the top guys. What do you think? I want your thoughts on this Mingo lineup. So Mingo captain with Thielen, Bryce Young, Cole Kmet, Darnell Mooney, and Tyson Bagent. That is so not a running back lineup, but I mean, everyone that's just going to be on the field all game is in that lineup, all 6 of them.
And to be clear, this one will not, like, it shows 0 dupes on the screen, but that is based on 5,000 sims in a
10,
contest
000,
with
10,000.
Okay. In a contest with 200,000 sims, it is going to be duped more than 0 times. Like it's a great lineup. As you said, it's just like a lot of players who are going to be on the field. They're going to see action. Looks like a really strong lineup to me. I like it. That is a lineup that I would expect to be duped a fair amount. But if you expecting 0 dupes here, maybe it's gonna be duped 20 times. Like maybe it's still not gonna be that crazy and you can still win a lot of money.
Makes you wonder though, how many people go, you know what? I have $1,000 left, so I'm gonna go from Mooney up to Hubbard or something,
Yeah, exactly. People do it all the time.
Yeah. So the $1,000, I agree with you for what it's worth. I just think that $1,000 on the table could keep it from being duped a ton. Here's one that's duped twice, but this is so whenever I see something that's duped a lot, but still ranks like top 5 in the sim, that's interesting. Bagent, Thielen, Kmet, Foreman, Mooney, Marshall. Yeah, that will not be by itself. That will not be unduped, but Thielen, Bears; Santos, Foreman, Panthers; Tyson Bagent; Mingo, Thielen, Bryce Young. Okay, how about this one? Mingo at captain, Thielen with Bryce Young and Hubbard, and then Tyson Bagent and wow, all right, and Panthers D. So this is a 5-1.
Which one are we looking at?
So
Thielen
look
captain?
at the
3,000
remaining.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Mingo, Thielen, Bryce Young, Chuba Hubbard, Panthers, Tyson. It's a 5-1.
So what did this one drop out from the other one above it? So we had Mingo, Thielen, Young.
Oh, right.
Well, we had Darnell Mooney in that one. So maybe it was
and this one has
Hubbard
what,
down
Panthers D? Or no, this one has Hubbard too.
Oh, it had Kmet and Mooney. This one is Hubbard and Panthers D. Interesting.
Jordan, can you go to the exposures real quick? I want to see what these exposures look like. Bagent, we have a lot of. Thielen, Bryce Young, Foreman, Kmet. I mean, you've got to feel good about that, right? Those are all guys that you talked about being at the top for you.
Yeah. Great lineup. Or great
highest
exposures, I should say.
What's that?
Yeah, great exposure. This is more Panthers. I am realizing I have very little of the defenses, and there's a part of me that's like, oh, maybe I should be adjusting to get more of these defenses, because it's obviously a great spot for defenses against 2 rookie quarterbacks. Probably too late to adjust things now.
Yeah, that is a lot of Panthers and a lot of Bears. You know what I think it comes down to, quite simply, when we're looking at this, you see the leverage, right, on the right side. What do Jordan? Yeah, go sort by leverage. Okay, I had a feeling Panthers would be one of the highest leverage teams. Are the Bears positive leverage too? Yep. So they're both north of 7% leverage.
All right.
As far as what we're getting them compared to the field, projected ownership 16% or 18% on the Bears at flex. That is pretty low for a 38-point total. Panthers 25%. We're getting them at 34%. Yeah. I guess when you're projecting a defense for close to 9 fantasy points, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now I guess depending on your lineups, you're hoping for a big game from these defenses or not. If I had to ask you right now, Neil, I just your thoughts. Do you project this game to be defensive game, or do you project this to be a potential shootout? And you can't select in between.
I can't select in between.
No, that's just giving it away.
I would say defensive game in that case, which is not at all what I want based on my lineups. But yeah, if I had to guess, I would guess a defensive game.
The shitty thing about defenses, though, is it could be a low-scoring defensive game. And if there aren't a lot of turnovers, and if it's just a lot of punts, and there's no defensive scores or special team scores, the defenses still might not get you there.
True. Yeah, you kind of need the scores.
Well, because even if there aren't, though, the Bears could finish with 8 or whatever, but then you have a dirt cheap Jonathan Mingo, a dirt cheap Terrace Marshall, a dirt cheap this and that. There's so many cheap skill players that don't even probably need the score in order to get you there. It's a weird game, man.
Yeah, it is a weird game. Did we get lock? We did, right?
Yeah, we're locked. Appreciate you guys being with us. As always, hit that thumbs up before you go. Good luck tonight. Neil, we'll be back, Monday? I don't even know what Monday Night Football is.
Neither do I. No idea.
Oh, wait. Yes, I do. It's Broncos-Bills.
Oh, that's right. We just looked at it.
Broncos-Bills. Should be a barn burner. Good luck today, guys. We'll see you back here for the next one. Peace.